Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And joining me on this episode, and I'm delighted about that because it's his first time on the show and he's a super cool dude, is Idris Arshad, a passionate HR leader in the charity sector who advocates to uplift the reputation and showcase the value of HR, especially how HR helps the people who charities are set up to serve. Idris is listed in the top 10 HR most influential practitioners in the UK 2024, and he is currently the head of people for Asthma and Lung UK. Idris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Pleasure's all mine.
I am very excited about this. I wanted you on my show for quite some time because you are a very well-respected and lovely human being. So beyond my reintroduction just a moment ago, why don't you take a minute or so and tell our listeners a bit more about you and what gets you up in the morning?
Brilliant. Aside from that, I do a bit of teaching on CIPD qualifications in the evenings and some on the weekend. I've got, from a personal point of view, got a wife, 3 kids running around, so that keeps me busy as well. But what gets me up in the morning, I think life, really, family, work as well, HR, making a difference. Those are the sorts of things, really, really gets me up. And I'm fortunate and blessed to be in a career that I do enjoy and I'm really passionate about.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at HRgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
You mentioned CIPD just a moment ago. You often speak at CIPD events, including Manchester towards the end of 2024. What role does the CIPD play, Idris, in maintaining high levels of excellence in human resources?
For me, they are the go-to body. I've been with the CIPD ever since 2013, and I've watched their progress, which I think is the key bit, that they haven't stood still. They've looked after the profession. They have got involved in matters that are important to its members, and they've tried. And I think that's the biggest thing I'll say. They've tried to be better and better as time has gone along. They will not get it all right, but for me, they are the go-to when it comes to HR professionalism and for its members and accreditations. And I think the role it plays, you just take one look at their framework, which has evolved over the past 10 years of what it started and what it looks like. It's moved with the place of work, the world of work, and it's also moved with its members as well. So for me, I'm a big fan, and I think it helps a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
Okay, so big shout out to the CIPD today. Let's talk about advocating for HR in the charity sector. I mentioned that as part of the intro for you. What inspired you to become an advocate for uplifting HR's reputation within the charity sector, and how do you think HR can better showcase its value in this space?
I think, to be honest, it came naturally. There was never a concrete plan, but I think through increasing my own presence on LinkedIn and over the past year, increasing my influence as well, it's become more natural and more to the forefront. I always saw in the very beginning, so I've been in the charity sector since I was 21, so 15 years plus. And I've always seen in different charities how HR is set up, how it functions, and the value it plays to varying degrees. Now, seeing the good and the bad helps you to come to a place of why you should advocate. Seeing the good helps you celebrate, and seeing the bad helps you to actually realize what you don't want to be doing. So I think it came naturally, but I think the area of reputation in HR in any organization is really key. And I'm a big advocate for making sure that people know what we do. And it's very common that people have wrong assumptions about HR, and as a result have a wrong experience with HR as well. So it's, for me, that's something that came naturally, but I think there's a lot of stereotypes and myths to kind of eradicate and actually show what we do as a profession, which I sum it as 2 words, is helping people. And I only came to that realization quite late on when someone said to me, you can do HR outside of the charity sector and still help people. And they went, just take a look at policies. You've got policies around maternity, special leave that help people. So you don't have to be in the charity sector to help people. So it came naturally, but I think it's something we've all got to do. Also from just a personal well-being point of view, when we look at our own profession and our own work.
In 2025, being prepared to support your employees during times of crisis is more vital than ever. The Crisis Ready Workplace program, designed by Dr. Bill Howitt and brought to you in partnership with HR News Canada and HR Law Canada, and supported by the HR Gazette, equips professionals and leaders with the knowledge, skills, and tools needed to effectively navigate workplace crisis, ultimately boosting employee well-being and enhancing organizational performance. Crisis Ready Workplace will take leaders beyond conventional risk preparedness to redefine what it means to lead through uncertainty. Expect to dive deep into interactive sessions, groundbreaking strategies, and transformative insights designed to prepare organizations for any challenge. This comprehensive program is pre-approved for 14 hours of CPD credits by HRPA, CPHR, and CPD International, and empowers leaders in crisis preparation, foundational knowledge, and supportive training. Sign up today at crisisready.ca, and now back to this episode of the HR Chat Show.
Okay, so you've got a passion for and do a tremendous job at Asthma and Lung UK, and you've got experience as a charity trustee. How has your experience as a charity trustee informed your approach to HR in the non-profit sector?
The one thing it really highlighted to me was it was a trustee position for a small charity is the tough circumstances organizations are in generally around finance, even more so now when you've got the new announcements around the increase in employer national insurance contributions. Charities are really struggling. There's a whole list of reasons, but they're surviving and they're trying to do well. We've heard of the hospice world in the past couple of months being really struggling and having to cut services, but that's the one thing the experience highlighted to me, seeing the numbers involved, especially for a small charity that's trying to help homeless people, how tough it was financially. And as we know, without finances, not much can be done. But aside from that, it really outlined to me what the ins and outs are when it comes to the governance of charities, and how important it is to have that at the top and the role of trustees that they play in actually helping the organization go forward. So it was a very eye-opening time that you don't really get to see from the outside until you're in there.
Just a quick follow-up to that, Idris. Do you see your career always being in or around the third sector?
I haven't really planned that out yet, but I'm open to experiences. I'm happy to go to different sectors. For me, it's about the learning and the experience. The charity sector I fell into a bit by accident, but I'm happy I fell into it. I'm really happy I fell into it. But I still am open to trying different sectors. I'll never rule that out because it's just not something I would do. But the heart is firmly set in the charity sector, and for good reasons.
For good reasons indeed. Let's talk about DEI leadership and achievements, if you don't mind. You have chaired DEI committees and increased workforce diversity. What are some of the strategies or some of the initiatives that you've found most effective in driving real, actual, actionable change?
I think a bit before the actions, what really has helped, in my view, is a bit of the kind of outside pieces of it, is what I would call it. So things like being really honest with yourselves as an organization. What's your size? What's your resource like? And not over-promising and under-delivering. I think that's been a huge thing I've seen in the DEI space, where people intend to do good and want to do a lot, but the reality is that they've promised too much within the resource and capacity that they've got. So I'd always encourage everyone to be honest about where you want to go, and also honest about the journey you're on. Where are you on the DEI journey? So I think getting that right in the beginning helps as you go along. And then the more kind of actionable things that can be done, I think data is a huge piece of DEI. I think it provides evidence and credibility to the actions you're wanting to take. So really putting a big focus on what workforce demographics look like and basing your decisions on that is really helpful. The DEI space is wide and covers a huge spectrum. So questions will be asked. And I think as HR professionals, you've got to be ready to take those tough questions and have an answer to them. And that's where data becomes really key. And I think another thing that I think has helped is that external external insight that you get, however that is, whether it's through forums, whether it's through accreditations, but having an external eye on your DEI practices really helps leverage it. We internally are naturally biased within our own organizations. From an organizational point of view, we will think certain things work and have that vision, where someone from the outside can look at it and go, actually, your problem does lie here. So I think that external help is really key when it comes to DEI leadership. And the final thing I'll say on it is I'm a fan of progress by momentum rather than setting targets. So rather than having a third or half or is 3/4 better, really taking your own organization as a benchmark and saying, today we are here when it comes to, let's say, workforce representation. In 6 months' time, we've actually reached here. And is that a good trend or is that a negative trend? That I find is a much more realistic and actually a better place to be in to measure your momentum and your progress over time, rather than someone's figure of a quarter, because they think a quarter sounds like a good number. So I think that really helps put DEI into perspective. And as I always say, we'll be having these conversations around DEI in 10, 15, 20 years' time, because it's a opportunity and a challenge that never ends.
This episode of the HR Chat podcast is supported by My Staff Shop, the UK's only employee-owned employee benefit provider. We provide a range of competitive and flexible employee benefit solutions to help you improve your employee value proposition, from exclusive deals and discounts to help your people stretch their salaries, to effective reward and recognition programs, and a comprehensive health and well-being offering. We pride ourselves on our friendly and collaborative way of working, putting the interest of our clients at the heart of everything we do. Learn more at mystaffshop.com. Thanks, and now back to the HR Chat Show.
We are recording this interview today towards the end of January 2025. In recent months, we've seen a lot of corporate America roll back DEI efforts. For example, Amazon, Meta, McDonald's. Just last week, as we record this, the new Trump administration said that they are pulling all funding for DEI or DEIB programs from the government level, and they are laying off those folks who've been needing those programs up to this point. Lots of people have got lots of different opinions around this. I'd love to get your take on the Trump administration's decision to cut DEI programs at the Fed level, and more generally, this pullback. And let's add SHRM to the mix as well. They moved away from DEI to talk more about inclusion in mid 2024. I'd love to get your take on it.
Yeah, where to start with all of this? I think what I'll say is nothing new in the respect that 18 months ago there was talk around the civil service and removing all DEI roles as well in the UK. So there's no shock and surprise. I think what I take from it from a HR professional point of view is that everyone has their own view of how DEI should be done. I don't think it's a case of no one wants to do DEI, because we're all, as humans, uniquely individual and have our own makeup and so forth. So I think it's just, from my take, it's a way of going down how to do DEI. So we don't need dedicated resource and funding to it. Maybe someone may feel it happens naturally. That's a take. But the key for me is let's, like I said before, let's fast forward 6 months and let's see what progress has been made in DEI as a result of this change and see where we are from there. So again, it's not a shock. It's something that is unfortunate for the professionals working and being impacted. That's very unfortunate for them. I just think I focus on the impact here. What impact? And we don't know that at the moment. And we can have an educated guess that actually is going to mean, workforce representation, the rights of people and so forth. It's going to have an impact on that. It's going to have an impact on policies of organizations and so forth. But I really do think it's about looking at the impact of what that has, and who knows whether that decision will be reversed. So what's on specifically, it has its impact. I think on a broad level, the challenge is still the same. How do we make sure that we hear the right voices and involve the right people and make sure people's needs are catered to? That's not going to go away regardless of the changes that are proposed or made. I still think the core element of why you do DEI still stands, because there's still going to be the question of, right, we've done that. So what now do we do when it comes to, let's just say for an organization that has customers, we've seen a decrease in a certain area around our sales. Okay, what do we do? What's the driving force behind that? Actually, they felt that their preferences weren't taken into account. What preferences? Oh, their language. So for me, the DI issue can't go away because it's just naturally, intrinsically around us everywhere we go. So for me, it's although the decision's been made, I think the challenge still maintains of anyone working in that sphere or leading that piece of work needs to think, how do I still do DEI without having dedicated resources there? So that's my general take on it in terms of when it comes to that is it's not something you'd ideally want to see, but it's not a shock or new news. I think it's a challenge to how on that level the country responds to that. So from the response comes from the people that are impacted, they'll have a voice. The people who would want to see change, they'll have a voice. And the people at the top seeing that how we made this change, how does that actually manifest itself? So it's interesting, it's unfortunate, but I think it's a wait and see on that one.
Okay, thank you. I've got so many more questions for you. However, we don't have time today. So let's just wrap up with one more. And that is, how can our listeners connect with you and learn more about all of the awesome stuff that you get up to?
Oh, so LinkedIn is easy. That for me is my go-to place of when it comes to me and learning more about my work. I try and post most days and try and get some content out there and some, engagement and some learning for myself as well. So LinkedIn is the place for me to do that. And I welcome any connections, comments, and so forth. So that's the place for me.
Excellent. Idris, you're a good man. You and I have had a few chats now. I think that you've got a very strong moral compass. You genuinely tried to help the profession. I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
And you, Bill. Thank you very much again.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.